what did your coach do when you applied to Harvard and the big five consulting firms? So interestingly enough, I got invited by the HBS's 2+2 program to interview with them. And for that, before I got invited for the interview, I had to fill in the typical HBS application, which requires you to write an essay and submit the resume and typical form filling. I think the typical form filling was fine and the resume was all good. I think we all know a lot about it. Essay was an interesting one because the essay that Harvard typically asks you quite strongly asks you to reflect on yourself and your life. One of the things that I learned from my coach early on in my career, when I was about 18 and 19, was 3 questions of life, which were incredibly valuable, and it helped write my Harvard essay. And I would say, till date, are the thesis of how I reflect on myself, but also how I coach and guide others in my teams. So the questions are, who are you? So who are you as an individual? What are your values? And what do you believe in? What are your passions? How have you become so? So how is experience or your exposures through your studies, through your internships, has led you to become who you are and has developed the beliefs? So not only just technically, but then also what kind of situations were you in that have formed certain beliefs that you have about society? And then where are you going next? And those series of questions, and to be able to strongly reflect on those early on in my career, really helped me, write that essay. And then my coach brought about a couple of his friends as well, who have had some experience of running management schools, who gave me advice on how to write that essay. So all of that was really helpful. And because of all that help, even though, I had to do the hard work and the content had to be generated by me, that guidance is priceless. And that enabled me to actually be invited for the interview. And the interview experience itself was quite amazing. And then right after the interview, Harvard asks you to submit a post-interview reflection. I also reviewed that with my coach. So you have to submit that in about 32 to 48 hours, something like this. And then I did that, and it was quite interesting. I mean, the coach can ask you some questions which can help you probe deeper. And just in the application process, very helpful. For the consulting firms, my coach actually tried to connect me with a couple of folks who were already in these companies, and they were trying to help me understand how to prepare for these case studies, what to do. And then even as I went through the interview process, they continued to network in their circles to see if there are people in these companies who they could speak to and really explain the potential of me as a candidate and why it would be valuable for me to join. So I think just that the network effect that a coach can trigger for you, if you can develop a deep relationship, is also quite powerful. Yeah, and what kind of questions did I have in my mind? I think even though while I was applying for these companies, I was still continuing to ask myself, so is this the right path for me? And then will consulting lead me to my goal? Because after going through that, in-depth journey through science and looking at the industry and how it functions, and going through an entrepreneurial exposure as well, where my coach helped me and guided me to, that also brought about questions in my mind that even though I had aspired to go to these top consulting companies for a long, long time, as I got closer to these interviews, it became clearer and clearer to me that it may not be necessarily the destination 100% that I'm looking for. And my coach continued to advise me to seek, employment in some core companies. They also connected me to a couple of their colleagues who were working in these pharmaceutical companies. I went through the consulting experience, the interviews. I didn't fare well in many of them. And so my coach also helped me post that, to help understand that it's not that if I couldn't manage through these interviews, that there's something wrong with me, or that I'm not good enough. It's just that where I want to go and what I want to do these consulting companies may not be the best location to do so. And I have much more of a realization towards that today, after doing what I'm doing. So I think the process of going through applying for jobs or internships, or getting rejected or getting accepted, and then the coach guiding you through the what could be your first, let's say, one or two most important lessons in those industries to be successful. The coach can help you a lot gain perspective on those.